Welcome to everyone, and I echo Pat's reflections about Memorial Day, and hoping you're having a good weekend, holiday weekend, and honoring those who served, and just seeing ourselves still in this place of not quite lockdown, but being very much conscious of the virus and where we are in the country and in the world right now, coming from this place. And I've said many times that just a lot of appreciation and gratitude that we are able to be together in the way that we are. Obviously it's different from being together in person, which we can't right now, but it's really good to see everybody and see everyone in their own, in all of our own spaces, and to practice together. And I feel I've done many of these classes and sessions and retreats over the last couple of months, and continue to be really grateful and appreciate that we have this gift of community. Just to be able to see everyone's faces, or, not quite everyone all at the same time, but at least a quarter of us, and then kind of to scroll through, and also to have folks who are, not here on video, but here on audio, and just appreciating the different places that we are, some North Carolina, and see Washington State, of course, represented, and let's see, is that Missouri, Jen? And just all the different places where we are, and coming together and coming, in this period of all that we're dealing with, all the challenges and the difficulties and the fears, and lots of uncertainty in the time that we're living in. So appreciating this opportunity to get together in this way. And for those who may be here for the first time, the format is a very straightforward one. I normally begin with some reflections about the teachings, about the practices, about this path of waking up and finding greater freedom in our lives. And then we go into a period of meditation, an opening period of meditation of about 15 minutes, which can help us to kind of settle and steady ourselves and to arrive. Then we have some time for sharing, normally in breakout groups of 3 or 4 people, just to share a little about how we're doing and how we're holding this time we're living in, how we're meeting things. What Zorba the Greek called the full catastrophe, the whole enchilada of our lives. And then we'll have Emily will lead us in some movement. Thank you, as always, for that, Emily. And then we'll finish with a final meditation and some announcements at the end. So the reflection today is on this path, a path of you could call it the path of the Dharma, the path of this way, these teachings and practices. You can call it mindfulness, but kind of it's a broader path than just mindfulness. It's these teachings and practices of awakening, of freedom, of freeing the heart. And what I want to focus on for the next few minutes as a reflection is that this is really a path of happiness, a path of joy, to the greatest happiness and the greatest joy. So it's a path of happiness, that happiness is very much baked in, as it were, to this path. And it's a path towards the greatest happiness. That's what the path of the Buddha's teachings really promise, a path to freedom from suffering, true freedom of the heart, freedom, a life really free of suffering here in this very life, not in some future life, not some eternal kind of promised land, but right here in this human incarnation, that freedom is possible. And it's important to, when we talk about happiness, to emphasize, I think, that when the Buddha talked about happiness, it wasn't worldly happiness in the sense that we often talk about happiness. There's a saying, something that the Buddha said. He said, "What the world calls happiness, I call suffering. Or the world calls suffering, I call happiness." Just kind of unpack that a little bit. What he's saying really is that our everyday kind of worldly conception of happiness is of really getting what we want and avoiding what we don't want. I'll be happy if I have that big house, that nice car, that good relationship, the job I've always been dreaming of, whatever it is, that, or all the good food I could eat, or, whatever it is, some sense that happiness is tied to getting things, to having things, to possessing things, not just physical things, but, being famous, being admired, these kind of things. If we crave those, if we get attached to those, then we suffer. So happiness is very much associated with getting what we want and avoiding what we don't want. I don't like this, pushing it away, avoiding it. If we can have this combination of the right balance of getting, or the right amount of getting what I want and avoiding what I don't want, I'll be happy. But the Buddha saw this really as not true happiness, but really attachment. None of those things, to have a nice house or a nice car, isn't nothing wrong with that inherently, but it's when we get attached to it. It's the attachment that's the problem. It's the craving, the wanting, the needing, the believing that our happiness will be found in something outside of ourselves. So that's really what the Buddha meant, that this is the happiness that the world often talks about and thinks about. But it's not genuine happiness. It's not true happiness. And he said, what the world calls suffering, I call happiness. The world would think of not having these things, not being attached, not wanting these things, as being somehow weird. Think of the word renunciation. For most of us, probably we tighten up a little bit when we hear that word, renunciation. You think of like, oh, I've got to give everything up. I've got to live in a little cell on a mountain and, not be warm enough, and kind of that kind of thing. We tend to think of renunciation in that way. But when the Buddha taught about renunciation, it was really talking about not so much giving up things as giving up a relationship to things, giving up the attachment, giving up the craving, giving up that clinging to what we want. It's really what we're renouncing, or what we're letting go, is that kind of holding, that wanting, that pushing away of experience. So when the Buddha talks about happiness, it's a happiness of an inner freedom, that we don't have to get something outside of ourselves to have. It's an inner freedom, it's an inner joy, an inner peace. And that's really what the teachings are pointing to, that we can experience that peace. And it's unshakable because it can't be taken away from us. Our house can be taken away, our car, our job, all of these things, as we know, can vanish. Boom, it's gone. there's a recession or a depression or COVID-19 and things change very dramatically. Think of it that 2 months ago, 36 million, I think it's 38 million now, people who had work and don't have work now. Hopefully there's, something coming in from unemployment benefits, but lives of tens of millions of people have been turned upside down, really overnight. And so all of these, everything can be taken away, but what can't be taken away is the inner happiness, is that freedom, as Viktor Frankl talked about, of the freedom of how we meet our experience, the freedom of the qualities of heart that we cultivate, that those can't be taken away. If we cultivate generosity, if we cultivate loving kindness or gratitude, these qualities of heart, once developed and kind of really becoming part of us, deepening, they can't be taken away in the way that our car can or our job can and all of that. So this is the happiness that the Buddha talked about. And so this path is one really of is one, the Buddha talked about it as abandoning the unskillful and cultivating the good, abandoning the craving and the attachment that I spoke about, and letting go and cultivating these heart qualities, these qualities that are ennobling, that are liberating, that are freeing. I often think that the Buddha's teachings kind of get a bad rap, because people tend to think of, if you asked somebody who maybe knew a little bit about Buddhist teachings, or even somebody who's maybe attended a few classes, about what's at the core of the Buddha's teachings, I think most people would say suffering. Suffering is at the core of the teachings. And, if you look at the core teachings, the central teachings are really the Four Noble Truths. And these are four noble truths about suffering. There's the existence of suffering, the first noble truth, the cause of suffering, clinging, craving that I spoke about, the end of suffering, freedom of the heart, and the path to the end of suffering. The eightfold path, the path of training in meditation, in wisdom, cultivating virtue, ethics. So these four noble truths. So they are about suffering. But the interesting thing, if we think of these four truths that the Buddha really taught about, and which all of the other teachings really think of it as a kind of a mandala. All of the other teachings kind of point towards these central teachings of the Four Noble Truths. But if you think about the Four Noble Truths, they're actually, the first two are about suffering, but the second pair are about ending suffering. They're about freedom. So they're the Buddha's teachings of freedom, that we can experience freedom in our lives. You could put them in terms of really two statements. One, we suffer when we cling. Suffering comes from clinging, or suffering in another way is clinging. When we cling, we suffer. And when we let go of clinging, suffering ends. So the end of suffering is ending of that craving, that holding, that clinging or attachment. So just these simple two statements that when we hold on, when we cling, we suffer. When we let go of clinging, we let go of suffering. We end suffering, not completely, but, for that, ultimately we have the possibility of ending suffering, of letting go of clinging completely. So, I just invite you to think about, in the last week, you've probably had quite a few opportunities to be aware of clinging and to let go of clinging. Of maybe maybe you felt overwhelmed, or you got angry with a politician, some random politician, who knows. So, or that you were anxious or fearful about your own health, or about health of a loved one, or you felt confused, or just tired of living in the way you've been living for the last couple of months. I'm sure each of us has ways in which we've been caught up in things in some way in this last few days or last few weeks. You think about that. In that situation, you might ask yourself, was I able to bring awareness and kindness to my experience? And was I able in that situation to let go of suffering, to see the suffering, to see where I was holding on and clinging? Was I able to let go of that? That's really kind of the microcosm of this practice. It's just kind of moment to moment seeing where we're getting stuck and seeing the possibility of letting go, of finding freedom. This, if you like, is the microcosm that points to the macrocosm, if you like, the big freedom that's possible, the freedom that's possible, the Buddha's teachings point to, that we can live this life free of suffering. We can actually end suffering in our lives, that we have this potential. And I think it's really helpful, because sometimes we can think, oh, that's a very kind of optimistic thought, that I would end suffering in this life. That seems like a distant goal. But it doesn't really matter, because each of us can look in our own life and say, okay, can I let go? Can I find some relief of suffering in my life? And what happens is the more we let go, the more we find ways of letting go of clinging, the more that opens up that possibility. Oh, yes, if I can let go here, maybe I can let go here. If I can let go of my anger towards this person, maybe I can let go of my anger towards, this other person, which feels even more challenging, this person that's hurt me, or this person that's betrayed me, that I can see, okay, that we can see that possibility of, that it actually points to the deepest freedom possible. Ajahn Chah, the great Thai teacher of the last century, put it this way. He said, let go a little and you'll experience a little freedom. Let go a lot and you'll experience a lot of freedom. Let go completely and you'll experience complete freedom from suffering, complete peace. Your struggle with the world will be at an end. Your struggle with the world will be at an end. So that we can look at this path as a gradual path, letting go a little, letting go more, and ultimately the possibility of letting go completely. So this is really a path of both of the letting go and really the cultivation of these qualities of the heart, of loving kindness, of compassion, of generosity, of gratitude, of joy, a whole range of these teachings, equanimity, that really, they're called beautiful states, because when we experience them, there's a sense of spaciousness, or a sense of ease, a sense of steadiness, these qualities that make life actually more enjoyable, more happy. So the path, coming back to the kind of the theme, I said, this is a path of happiness, that we can actually, through these practices, experience deep happiness. It's not a path of austerity and asceticism. It's all about, I've got to give up this, got to give up this, got to give up this. It's really about letting go of clinging, but it's also about developing these qualities, these heart qualities that help us live freely and that are actually joyful to experience. They're joyful to live with. Here's something that there's one of the rulers at the Buddha's time of the Buddha's time a man named King Pasenadi observed about the Buddha's community, the Sangha of monks and nuns and lay people. But the Sangha there, the community, says, here I see bhikkhus, monks, nuns, smiling and cheerful, sincerely joyful, plainly delighting their faculties, fresh, living at ease, unruffled, subsisting on what others give, abiding with mind as aloof as a wild deer's. Interesting kind of. What he observed was that this wasn't these people who are kind of like, oh, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough, but actually really joyful, really happy living together in community. So I want to just kind of invite you to reflect on this kind of sense that we can deepen these qualities within ourselves. We can cultivate happiness. We can cultivate joy. We can cultivate equanimity. And it's really developing healthy habits of taking in feelings of joy when they arise and letting them expand, letting ourselves truly feel what we're feeling, taking in the joy. And we can do it in conscious ways through meditation, such as meditations on loving kindness, inviting those qualities in. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be joyful, whatever. May I be peaceful. May my life be filled with joy. We can invite these qualities in. And in this way, we can develop the steadiness, develop the joy that can help us kind of deal with and respond to all of the challenges and the difficulties of being alive in these times, or in any times. That we're kind of consciously developing the capacity to live a joyful life, live a compassionate life, live with ease and with kindness. I love this statement, this saying from the Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore. He said, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty. I worked, and behold, duty was joy. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty. I worked, and behold, duty was joy. So what I'd like us to do is to move into our initial meditation. So for this, I invite you to sit in a way that's comfortable and relaxed. It's helpful for the meditation to take a few minutes to really settle, to allow yourself to become as present and as steady and relaxed and at ease as you can. So we'll just start with that. Take a few moments to sit, find a posture that's comfortable and relaxed. Let your back be straight. Invite your shoulders to relax. Let your hands rest comfortably wherever, in your lap or on your knees. And if you'd like to, you can let your eyes close. Let your attention come inward. If that's comfortable for you, if you prefer, you can keep your eyes open. But it's helpful not to be looking around, because then the mind tends to stay very busy. Maybe just focus on a spot in front of you, or with the eyes closed. So letting the attention come inward, come into the body. You might consciously let your attention drop out of thinking mode, out of the future, the past. Just letting yourself be here, aware of your body, aware of the sensations. Just being here. Make any adjustments that you'd like to make to be as comfortable as you can be. Notice how your breathing is right now. And you may find it helpful to take a few longer, deeper breaths. Just inviting in a long, full in-breath, filling the lungs, filling the chest. And a long, slow out breath, releasing the breath till all of the breath has been released. Breathing in again, nice deep full in breath, as though you're inflating a balloon. Relaxing, letting go on the out breath. And notice how this feels as you breathe in deeply and breathe out. These longer, fuller breaths. If it helps, you can just invite in a quality of calm, peace. You could say that to yourself, calm or peace, as you breathe in and as you breathe out. Breathing in, calming the body. Breathing out, calming the mind. And just in your own time, when you're ready, just letting the breath settle back into its natural rhythm. Just letting it be as it is. Letting your attention come into the body. You might just scan your body briefly and just notice if there's any area that you might be holding tension, that you could relax a little bit more. Maybe the shoulders. It's bringing your awareness to the shoulders and inviting a softening, a relaxing of the shoulders. Notice your facial muscles around the eyes and the mouth, the jaw. Can you relax these muscles a little more? And the torso, the chest and the belly, where we often tense up if we're stressed or busy. Can you invite that area, the belly, stomach muscles, to relax? Letting the breath come into a relaxed and open belly. Coming down to the lower body, just relaxing the lower part of the body down to your feet, letting the whole body be relaxed and at ease. And you could invite a smile or a half smile to your face. It's enough to activate the muscles at the corners of your eyes and the corners of your mouth. And let the smile send a message, as it does to our brain and to our nervous system, that we can be at ease, that we can relax. Thinking of a loved one, somebody who easily makes us feel happy or joyful, can help us, help invite the smile. You might invite the smile down into the body, into the area of your heart, smiling into your heart. Smiling into your body. Inviting, if you can, a quality of joy. Just in being here now, putting aside what you might have to do later or what happened earlier. And just this moment, here now. See if this moment can be a moment of ease, of peace. Inviting that quality into your being, into your heart right now. And if that's not what's present for you right now, just see if you can make space for whatever is here. If there's annoyance or frustration or restlessness, see if you can hold that with kindness. Just make space for it. Inviting joy or happiness doesn't mean we're going to feel joyful or happy. What might come up is the opposite of joy or happiness, might be anger or annoyance. But we can still make space for that. And the more we invite in these qualities, these heart qualities, the more they become part of this, of our consciousness, of our being. Just this moment, this breath, this feeling, whatever's here, just letting it come, letting it be, just letting it pass, letting it go when it's ready to go. And as a way of gathering your attention, it can be very helpful to focus on an object, something that kind of helps us stay present, that helps us focus our attention and steady the mind. And one of the most helpful for many of us, and in many traditions, is just to bring awareness to our breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Not, not changing the breath, or doing anything with the breath, but just aware of breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Just letting that be the focus of attention. If it's helpful, you could just count the breaths in a kind of softly counting, not overly focusing on the numbers. Just as you're breathing in and out, note one in the mind. Next in breath and out breath, note two. You could continue to 10 and then just begin again with one for the next in breath and out breath. The counting can be helpful for just helping stabilize the attention. And again, just if it's helpful, you don't need to count by any means, just if it's useful. If the mind does go off into thought, just gently and kindly let it come back, incline it back to the breath, to the body, to this moment. In breath and out breath. Just notice where you are right now and just see if this moment can be a moment of peace, a moment of freedom. You don't have to solve the problems of tomorrow or work out the problems of yesterday. Just to be here now, just this moment. Finding peace, finding freedom right here, right now. As Dorothy Hunt says, peace is this moment without judgment. This moment in the heart space where everything that is welcome. I finish with this poem by Rebecca Del Rio called Prescription for the Disillusioned. Come new to this day. Remove the rigid overcoat of experience, the notion of knowing, the beliefs that cloud your vision. Leave behind the stories of your life. Spit out the sour taste of unmet expectation. Let the stale scent of what-ifs waft back into the swamp of your useless fears. Arrive curious, without the armor of certainty, the plans and planned results of the life you've imagined. Live the life that chooses you, new every breath, every blink of your astonished eyes. So we'll finish off the meditation in half a minute, and then we'll move into a period of sharing, and this will be groups of, we'll try for 4, and some of them may only be 3, maybe some might even be 2. But let this be an opportunity to share, and what I'd invite you to share today is what just something that's come up for you that you found difficult and how you worked with it, if you were able to or weren't able to work with it. How a difficulty, a challenge perhaps, and how you worked with it or how you might work with it in the future, dealing with anger that's arising or fear or whatever it is. So just use that as an example or it's an invitation, and then if you prefer to share something else, you can do that. So we'll have about 12 minutes to do that total. So it might be take 2.5 minutes each person, and then have a couple of minutes at the end for sharing. And really an opportunity, each person talk in turn and practice mindful listening. So just finishing off the meditation with a bell. Kind of magic, isn't it? Everyone appears.
Totally.
Disappears, comes back. It's great. I had a thought, and this, since it's a lot of, I know there's a lot of richness in the small groups, and we obviously don't have time to kind of download that or share very much of that at all. But what we can do is, I just invite you, if there's anything that struck you or that you've found powerful or meaningful to you, just put it in the chat box. Just share a reflection there, and we have the capacity to capture that afterwards. Excuse me, capture that afterwards, and take in any suggestions and ideas and questions. So that's a way that we can do it, even though we can't do a whole lot of that in the big group, just time-wise. Maybe if there is just one or two or anything that really stands out that somebody feels, is kind of compelling or you would like to share, please do that. And I think I can see folks if you raise a virtual hand. Chuck, I see your hand up. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I just, what I was impressed me is, and it continues to with these groups, is what a nice, warm connection I had with the person, the lady who was on the other side. Just it really, and it's amazing that I actually got this from Zoom, which I seem so, techie, but so thank you for that. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. Maybe if there's one more that we could hear from, and please feel free to put anything in the chat box, any thoughts, reflections, suggestions, ideas. And Rachel, who do you have there with you, Rachel? Rachel in DC?
This is my son, Turner.
Good to see you. So good to see you. Welcome. And I know we always have a number of animals with us, cats and dogs. So it's a nice, not just human community, but a sentient being community. So welcome to all the sentient beings here today. Emily, are you here? And
I am here.
Some movement?
Yes.
Nice to get into our bodies.
All right.
Actively.
So you'd like to stand up and gather the energy of the sky, reaching up, floating your arms up, compiling all that wonderful sunshine and clouds and stars beyond the clouds, and bring that energy to your heart. And gather the energy of the room and all of the people sharing that we've had together, the kindness and compassion. And bring that energy to your heart. And gather the energy of the earth, that which provides us with so much abundance and vital nutrients. Bring that to your heart. Now bring your arms out into cactus arms and notice your right hand will be turning to the right 3 times. So breathing in, exhale to the right, back to center, to the right, to center, and to the right, and center. Inhaling deeply, exhale to the left, and center, to the left, and center, to the left, and center. Take a moment for a shoulder move. Drop your arms down and lift up, down, and up, and down, and up. Float your arms down. Do a little dance like nobody is watching, enjoying whatever is helping you feel more energized. And then stretch those arms up, reaching up. Press on your feet to feel the ground. Clasp your right wrist in your left hand and lengthen to the left, stretching out from your hip through those fingertips. Breathing here, feeling the right side of your rib cage open. And inhale back to center. Drop the shoulders down away from your ears. Clasp your right hand around your left wrist. Breathe in, extend up, lengthening from your hip out through your fingertips. Take a deep breath in here and feel that air in your left side of your rib cage, and then come back to center. Float your arms down. Now clasp your hands behind your waist. We're going to do a gentle back bend. Feel your feet. Inhale. Exhale, lengthen your arms, stretching your elbows away, lifting up your chest. And come back to center. Rest. Inhaling. Exhale, stretch, lifting your chest. And come back to the waist. Last time. Inhale. Exhale. Reaching your arms away from your body. Come back. Your hands, unclasp them, float them up. And we're going to do a forward bend as the last movement. Place your hands above your knees. Press on your feet. Breathing in and exhale just gently. Allow your head to drop, your shoulders to drop down, your back. Feeling the lengthening of your spine. And take a deep inhale. Exhale with a sigh. Inhale. Sigh out. Inhale. And now press your hands against your thighs, press on your feet, and lift your torso up, placing your hands at heart center, reaching up, open to the sky, open to the room and our group, and open to the earth. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. Beautiful, as always. Thank you. Thank you. Always feels good to connect with those parts of the body which I get to feel a little unfamiliar with. So beautiful. Thank you, Emily. Thank you. So in your own time, just find your way back to sitting posture. Again, just sit in a way that's comfortable, relaxed, a sense of ease. And take some moments to find your seat, take your seat. Relaxed and aware. Letting yourself settle. Closing your eyes if that's comfortable. Letting your attention come inward. Feeling the body. Feeling the contact with the surface beneath you. Contact of your feet with the floor. Your hands wherever they're touching, knees or your lap or one hand touching the other. Might take a couple of longer, deeper breaths, just to let you settle into being here. Relax. Remembering the smile can help us relax and de-stress. And as a way of letting go of fixations on what's going on outside or what we might need or not have, what we're not liking, it can be helpful just to come home to ourselves and think of some things in our life that we are grateful for. The loved ones and people and other beings in our lives. All that we have that's going well for us, that's working for us. Might be our livelihood or our health or a certain comfort in life. Just taking in whatever you can easily appreciate and be thankful for. And when we reflect on gratitude, which is another heart quality, and we kind of step out of that clinging mode, out of the mode of suffering, into recognizing what we already have, the gifts that life has given us, that we haven't necessarily done anything to deserve, just come to us. You know, it could be just the beauty of the season and the trees and the flowers and the birds, and all being able to breathe good air, clean air, have access to good food and nutrients. There's so much that we have that we easily forget about, and we're focused on some sense of what we don't have. I need this, I need that. And just to be able to come back and appreciate what we have, be grateful for what we have. This helps really gladden the heart and the mind. You might appreciate, be thankful for the gift of these practices, these teachings. Now, when I say these, I don't mean in a limited sense of just the Buddhist teachings or mindfulness, but it's a whole range of teachings and wisdom, compassion. It comes from the heritage of humanity. All of the traditions and the wisdom, the kindness. Appreciating too the gift really of Sangha, of community, of the support we each get from each other. You know, in here we can feel we're not just practicing on our own or for ourselves. We're here with, you know, over 100 other people from many parts of the world. You know, and then obviously the country. Say with a shared commitment, we all have our particular expressions of it, but a shared commitment to waking up, to living in a compassionate and a caring way in this life, in our world, and knowing that we're not alone. The illusion that we experience when we're suffering, when we're caught up in clinging and this strong sense of self that needs what we don't have or wants to change what we do have. The illusion really is of separation, of we think we're alone. We think we've got to go through this on our own. And when we recognize that it's really a shared experience, we all have our individual expressions of it. But it's really a shared human experience. And when we connect with that, kind of we can wake up to our interconnectedness, to this really being a journey of all of us together. And not even just us here, but all those committed to waking up, and really all beings, everyone on a path to awakening, even though, as the Buddha spoke about it, some have more dust in their eyes and some less. We're at different stages, if you like, of this journey. Just appreciating being together in community and supporting each other in our practice, in this journey of waking up, journey to freedom in our lives, to peace. And again, if it's helpful to let the breath be an anchor for you, a home base. Just grounding you here in this moment, not having to solve tomorrow's problems or yesterday's lessons right now, but just this moment, this breath, this being here. In breath and out breath. The spiritual teacher Krishnamurti said, we come to this infinite well of life with a thimble, so we go away thirsty. We come to this infinite well of life with a thimble, so we go away thirsty. Is it possible for us to open to all that life offers, to cultivate these qualities of heart and mind that can help us deepen into freedom of the heart, the deepest peace? in these final few minutes of the meditation, might take in and appreciate your own intentions, your own practice today. Just the effort that you've made to be here, to be present with your experience, to open to the difficulties and the challenges, and to cultivate these qualities of love and compassion and peace, gratitude and generosity. You might reflect on whether there's an intention you might develop or deepen as you go back or prepare to go back into daily life. Perhaps of how to live with greater presence or compassion or kindness. You know, what each of us might do as we go back into our lives. Go back to our daily individual expression of the joys and sorrows of life. How each of us might make a difference for our loved ones, or for our friends, our community, or the larger world. What is it that I might do, you might do, we might do? We can really serve, help bring kindness and care into the world. This from Pablo Neruda, his poem, Keeping Quiet. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak any language. Let's stop for a second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade, doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it's about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now, I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. So thank you, everyone, for taking this time and for being together in this way. It's been really a joy to be with you and to be together.